All right, y'all, let's talk about this trifling ass Supreme Court. Like, let's just get into it.
Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Don't play with me.
So before we start this conversation, just want to remind you to go over to patreon.com/AdrianExpression. We do podcast episodes over there every Tuesday. We have some very fun live streams every Sunday over there. So go check it out if you enjoy this video, or if you like having these kinds of conversations or conversations in general. Check it out, let me know what you think. So I wanted to discuss everything that's been going on with the Supreme Court and the potential overturning of Roe versus Wade, all that shit. I wanted to really get into it. So I'm gonna talk about the draft, I'm gonna talk about what it means, talk about the response, and also I'm gonna talk about things I think everyone should know about having access to safe abortions, right? So first of all, this draft opinion that has been leaked, it was written by Justice Samuel Alito, and that shit leaked. I don't know, it leaked to the press, something happened, and you already know me, I don't really like to give conspiracy theory teas, but I'm just like, okay. You talk about a leak and all that, I'm just like, okay, I don't want to say anything more than that, right? But the content of the draft is what's really important. Now, a lot of people who work in this field, a lot of activists and stuff, they have been preparing for this moment. They have seen that the conservatives were aiming to do this for, I guess, decades or something? And they've been prepared for this moment. A lot of times they were called alarmist, or they were called y'all, it's not that serious, but they knew that this was gonna happen. So CNBC says about the draft. So CNBC says the 98-page draft opinion was penned by Justice Samuel Alito, one of 6 conservatives on a court that has moved sharply to the right in the wake of the Trump administration. Alito's draft would toss out the precedent set by the 1973 case Roe v. Wade, and this was something that was also reaffirmed in the 1992 Planned Parenthood case, right? So, which also is under threat. So those pivotal rulings protect the right to get an abortion before the point of fetal viability and require that regulations limiting abortion access do not pose an undue burden, quote unquote. Alito wrote in the draft published by Politico, he said that we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled, right? Later I'm going to talk about the response to this guy from Biden, all them people, you know what I mean? But I want to use this moment to discuss what would actually happen if this went through. Now, this is just a draft. I'm going to get into the details on how drafts get approved and all that shit, and how decisions are made in the Supreme Court a little bit later. But I don't get why people are acting like, oh, it's just a draft, it can't be that serious, or it might change. Yes, drafts do change, but it's looking like, you know what I mean? Drafts do change. But this shit is not looking like she gonna change that much, right? So let's talk about what would happen if this actually goes through. So the New York Times wrote an article that really explained it. So they say in the aftermath of a Roe reversal, about half of states would be likely to ban abortion or limit it heavily. So this is the first segment we have. We have states with trigger laws, right? So 13 states have so-called trigger laws, which were passed in the years since the Roe decision in 1973, and explicitly note they would outlaw abortion within their borders if the Supreme Court allowed it. In a few states, Kentucky, Louisiana, Oklahoma, South Dakota, the bans would take effect immediately. In others, like Idaho, the ban would go into effect 30 days after the Supreme Court struck down Roe. The next segment, 5 states have decades-old abortion laws on the books that were invalidated by the Roe decision, but could be brought to life again, though enforcement in each state remains unclear. And then you got the last one. It says 14 states could restrict abortion to 22 weeks or earlier, and many of these may move to ban the procedure entirely in the months ahead. States' ability to set limits on abortion past the point of fetal viability, typically about 24 weeks of pregnancy, was affirmed in the 1992 Planned Parenthood ruling that the Supreme Court also appears set to overturn. Without Roe or the Planned Parenthood case, state laws restricting abortion to 20 weeks, 15 weeks, or 6 weeks could take effect. So this is the potential outlook, right? If this actually goes through, if this decision is actually made, that's the potential outlook. That's what we're looking at. I also want us to remember that it is still just a draft, even though, like I said, it doesn't, in my opinion, and it seems like all the people, all the professionals and stuff who work in the field, and who are activists in the field, in their opinion also, it doesn't look like it's going to change that much. But I do want to highlight that it's not yet law. They got to go through oral arguments. They have to go through private conferences, justices talking with their law clerks and stuff. They got to vote. and the Chief Justice or the most senior justice in the majority gets to assign who writes the majority opinion for the court. And then at the end, a majority of justices must sign on to the court's opinion before it can be delivered publicly, and this is according to the U.S. Court's website. I got some of this from NPR as well. Now, if you're talking about the response from conservatives is very, like, predictable. Very predictable. Honestly, they're more pressed about the fact that the draft leaked in the first place, even though I'm, like I said, don't get me to be being a goddamn conspiracy theorist on here, because I'm just like, why did it leak? How did it leak? Who leaked it? Okay, I'm not, you know, like I said, I'm staying away from that. But on the other hand, a lot of the response from people like me are just like, girl, what the fuck are y'all doing? Okay? Because this tweet came from Joe Biden in 2019. Roe v. Wade is the law of the land, and we must fight any and all attempts to overturn it. As president, I will codify Roe into law and ensure this choice remains between a woman and her doctor. And I also want to preface also that a lot of the research I'm talking about, a lot of the research that has been done, period, is centered around, like, you know, cis women and abortion. So I know that there are trans people who also are, like, being left out of the conversation when it comes to abortion. So I just want to also preface that. But a lot of the research is centered around, you know, cis women, and I think that obviously is an issue as well. So ABC says this about turning the shit into a law that supersedes the ruling of the Supreme Court. They said, should the Supreme Court rule to overturn Roe v. Wade, Congress could introduce and pass legislation that would federally protect abortion services that would effectively supersede the potential decision. And this comes from George Washington University Professor Casey Burgat or whatever. They also said, however, and this is a big however, the Supreme Court could then deem the new abortion law unconstitutional in a future case. A federal law is the best, most legitimate means of codifying the principles of Roe v. Wade. It's not bulletproof because a future Supreme Court case can render the new law unconstitutional, but it's by far the most feasible strategy to make abortion legal in all U.S. states. Lawmakers have already introduced legislation that would codify Roe v. Wade, but so far it has failed to become law. The Women's Health Protection Act of 2021 was first introduced in the House in June 2021. In September 2021, the bill was passed in the House 218 to 211. On February 28th, the Senate voted against bringing the bill to the floor. BBC said the chances of success on such measures, I guess like trying to find another way to block this shit from happening. They said the chances of success on such measures range from slim to remote in the extreme. That puts even more pressure on Democrats to win congressional elections in the autumn. And if Republicans take back at least partial control of Congress instead, the door will firmly shut on Democratic hopes of a national legislative response to Roe's demise. Now, I am obviously not a political expert, but this response from Joe Biden to me seems so weak. To me, we do not know whether this draft is genuine or whether it reflects the final decisions of the court. It's just like, okay, girl, like, all right. I mean, he's just repeating the old shit that he said. I believe that a woman's right to choose is fundamental. Roe has been the law of the land for almost 50 years, and basic fairness and stability of our law demand that it not be overturned. He's just saying, like, they all saying shit, and it's just like, I understand that Democrats have opposition. I get that. But it's just, when the first law I was talking about, the one that was brought to the House in 2021, when that happened, there were Democrats that were voting against abortion rights. Like, there were Democrats voting against the right to choose. So it's just like, it's annoying as fuck, I think, is what I'm saying. He said, I'm directing my Gender Policy Council and White House Counsel's office to prepare options for an administration response to the continued attack on abortion and reproductive rights. But then in the third paragraph, he makes a play, and I think they're all trying to at this point. They're making a play for the elections in the midterms, I guess. He said, third, if the court does overturn Roe, it will fall on our nation's elected officials at all levels of government to protect a woman's right to choose, and it will fall on voters to elect pro-choice officials this November. At the federal level, we will need more pro-choice senators and a pro-choice majority in the House to adopt legislation that codifies Roe, which I will work to pass and sign into law. And it's just like, y'all would not be fucking scrambling for fucking votes. Y'all would not be scrambling to get people, to push people out to the fucking polls if y'all were listening to what the fuck people wanted to wanted to, if y'all were not continuously over promising and under fucking delivering, and also if some of the way that y'all Democrats speak is the same way that Republicans fucking speak. So the fact that y'all, all this shit is going on, and I feel like if they had actually been playing a long game like Republicans, if they actually had been listening to their fucking constituents, if they actually had been, you know, trying to listen to what the citizens want instead of filling their fucking pockets up, they would have a strong foundation to be like, all right, bitch, like they wouldn't even be shook. They would be like, all right, we got the votes, we got the voters to go out there. But y'all don't listen. Y'all don't listen, and a lot of times y'all greed, it lines y'all up with the same talking points like fuck Republicans. So now y'all in this fucked up place. Now we all in this fucked up place, right? The other thing that Joe Biden said, which I think was really insane when you think about it, he literally stood up at a fucking press conference and was just like, what are the next things to be attacked? Like what are the next things that they're going to attack, the conservatives going to attack? Is the next thing going to be that LGBT kids are not going to be allowed in the classroom? And he said this MAGA crowd is the most extreme political organization that has existed in American history. I'm just like, it's crazy to hear him say that shit. Are LGBT kids not going to be allowed in the classroom? Bitch, y'all just put a ban. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What the fuck do you think? Y'all just put a ban talking about that people can't even discuss being gay or having if they're a man and having a fucking husband. At school, bitch, y'all literally enforcing don't say gay laws right now. What are you talking about? What are they gonna attack next? We know what they're attacking next. And it's not about next, it's what they're doing right fucking now. NPR says a new law in Alabama which goes into effect this weekend. I'm sure this article is a little older and that's why it says this weekend. But it says a new law in Alabama, which goes into effect this weekend, makes it a felony to provide gender-affirming care for transgender minors. Families with transgender children are figuring out how to support their kids and stay in Alabama if possible. And Alabama's right now fighting the fucking Justice Department to uphold this ban against trans kids. So it's like, it's not about what's happening next, it's about what they're doing right the fuck now. No Lie with BTC says, the draft majority opinion overturning Roe v. Wade that just leaked also explicitly criticizes Lawrence v. Texas, which ended laws that banned gay sex, and Overturn versus Hodges, which legalized same-sex marriage. Alito claims they are not, quote-unquote, deeply rooted in history. I guess American history, our history, whatever. So it's not about what they're attacking next or what they're coming for next, and I guess it kind of is, but like the shit is happening right before our eyes, and I think like people are expecting this big turn of events, sudden, you're gonna have an emperor sitting at the top suddenly, randomly out of nowhere. But that's not how the shit happens. That's not how dystopian realities happen. This shit happens on a sliding scale, sweetie. You know what I mean? It happens slowly. So I want to end this video talking about why it is extremely important. I feel like all of us know this, but why it is extremely important for people to have access to safe abortions, right? It's just important. It's a human right, period. Amnesty International says, regardless of whether abortion is legal or not, people still require and regularly access abortion services. According to Guttmacher Institute, a US-based reproductive health nonprofit, the abortion rate is 37 per 1,000 people in countries that prohibit abortion altogether or allow it only in instances to save a woman's life, and 34 per 1,000 people in countries that broadly allow for abortion, a difference that is not statistically significant. World Health Organization, I'm gonna put the fact sheet, if I remember, in the description box. 6 out of 10 of all unintended pregnancies end in an induced abortion. Around 45% of all abortions are unsafe, of which 97% take place in developing countries. I don't like that terminology. I use the global south. Hopefully I'm right about that. Unsafe abortion is a leading but preventable cause of maternal deaths and morbidities. It can lead to physical and mental health complications and social and financial burdens. Lack of access to safe, timely, affordable, and respectful abortion care is a critical public health and human rights issue. And this shit from the University of Colorado, listen to me. I want to speak about like black women specifically. Banning of, this is what the University of Colorado said in their research. Banning abortion nationwide would lead to a 21% increase in the number of pregnancy-related deaths overall and a 33% increase among Black women. Carrying a pregnancy to term is 33 times riskier than having an abortion, with 0.6 maternal deaths per 100,000 abortions compared to 20.1 maternal deaths per 100,000 live births, according to the CDC. The study estimated that in the years following a national ban, an additional 140 women would die annually from pregnancy-related deaths, bringing the death toll to 815, a 21% increase. Among non-Hispanic Black women, pregnancy-related deaths would increase by a third. Black women are more likely to seek an abortion for a variety of reasons, including unequal access to opportunities like housing, education, jobs, and healthcare. Meanwhile, the mortality risk of carrying a pregnancy to term is more than 3 times as high for non-Hispanic Black women as compared to non-Hispanic white women. So it's all over the place. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. And they doing this, they just playing with people's bodies, just playing with people's bodies, just playing with people's bodies. People who are already vulnerable, people already at risk, you know, and they in here talking about vote harder. I don't like the idea of dangling our human rights in front of our faces and be like, well, this is the best. We couldn't help y'all out. We couldn't give y'all what y'all need to survive in this fucking society. But if you want the last little bit of human rights, you got to keep voting for us. And it's just like, okay, we're gonna do what we have to do. I feel like people all over gonna do what they have to do, whether that's, like I said, you're in these groups, you're being an activist, you're just at least spreading the word, you're being loud about it, you're protecting the people in your life who are at risk when it comes to this. Whatever you have to do, or if you feel like you gotta vote, we're gonna do what we have to. But their system is fucked. Like this is ridiculous. I think that's crazy. I think it's crazy. But yeah, I think I covered everything. I can only imagine this video is about to be long as hell. But I wanted to include literally everything because the conversation was so huge. So hopefully I did a good job. Hopefully like we all learned something today. But yeah, that's what it's looking like, y'all. It's crazy out here. Anyway, I love y'all so much. Find something peaceful and fun and nice and beautiful to do today because this news is not cute. It's not cute. I love y'all so much. Be safe out there and make sure that you have a good goddamn evening.